So night 2 of the second Democratic debate. Who won? Who lost? What happened? And all that fun stuff. Here's what I think, man. Now this one, I don't think the hierarchy was as clear in the second one as the hierarchy was in the first one. So in other words, in the first one, you had Bernie number 1, just absolutely crushed it. Elizabeth Warren number 2, did well, but I think was a little too professorial. And that's why Bernie won and she came in second. But outside of that, she did very well. Then you had Marianne Williamson, Pete Buttigieg, and then at the bottom, Hickenlooper, and definitely Delaney at the bottom. The hierarchy, I think, was very clear in the first debate, where I don't think there was much room for disagreement. Little parts here and there you could disagree with, but the hierarchy, again, seemed relatively stable to me. Night 2 was a lot more up in the air, okay? First thought on night 2. Nobody really, overwhelmingly crushed it and stood above everybody else. There were a lot of people who kind of had their moments, and even some people who had a lot of good moments and then mix it in with a lot of bad moments, to the point where I would have said they had a good night until they shit themselves and had a bad moment. But that being said, even though the hierarchy isn't as clear, here's my takeaway from night 2. You have a tie for doing the best, a tie for winner. I would say Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang both did very solid jobs. Now, criticism of Andrew Yang you could have is most of the time he just redirected back to UBI, which he calls his freedom dividend. That's definitely true. I mean, he did it over and over and over. However, listen, when he spoke, he had control of the room, he had command of the room, and he made good points. And regardless of what your personal feelings are on Andrew Yang, irrelevant, I have reservations about his UBI because it seems like it leans in a more libertarian direction, and it's not a UBI that's like a lefty UBI, which would just kind of be on top of the social safety net. It seems like the long-term goal is to reduce or eliminate the social safety net and replace it with a UBI. But whatever you think of him personally, I think he did a very good job in that debate, and he got some very strong crowd reactions. I don't know if that's just his people in the crowd or not, but from an outsider perspective, even trying to view it through the eyes of somebody who's relatively apolitical, I think that he did really well, and he caught many people's eyes. Now, is he potentially too far back for that to matter? Could be, but that's yet to be seen. We'll have to see in the polling moving forwards. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, I think, did very well as well. A criticism I could see of her is temperamentally she's too moderate. Now, here's what I mean by that. She got the memo that, hey, I'm far enough back where I got nothing to lose, and I'm going balls to the wall, swashbuckling, ripping everybody who I dislike and who gets in my way. And she did that. She nailed Kamala to the wall, and she had some very, very strong moments. But what I would tell Tulsi is, you have to marry your substantive criticism, your fuck it, let's let it fly arguments with a fuck it, let's let it fly persona. To me, in this modern era, she's almost a little too presidential and a little too calm and temperamentally moderate. When I wanted her to really, up that decibel level, get angry, get passionate, throw out the talking points, throw out the politician way of speaking, hit him hard, hit him fast. So she did a very good job on the substance. I'm just not sure that temperamentally she stood out, because I think we're in a very populist anti-corruption era, and people are looking for a swashbuckling, angry person, and she just comes across as very calm. Now, again, I have her tied for winning the debate because I think she did the best on stage, tied with Andrew Yang. But I don't think that it was a standout performance in the same way that Bernie Sanders had a standout performance. Now, that's just my take on it. Some people might disagree with that because, hey, some people might prefer the more calm, presidential way of speaking. But, I would argue that in the modern day and age, even if you prefer that kind of an approach, you can acknowledge that really it's the loud, angry ones who are going to resonate more with the electorate. And the other criticism could be the same one that, people have with Andrew Yang is, you did a very solid job, Tulsi, but are you too far back still at this point to have it matter? Because I think that in order for her to really get back in this race, it would have had to be not just crushing on the substance, which I think she did, but also crushing on the style, and I don't think she did there. So I don't know how much of a bump she'll see in the polls, but I will say this. Yet again, she was the number one Googled candidate, which is definitely worth something. That's definitely worth something. I don't care what the mainstream media talking heads tell you. That matters, because people are interested in who she is. And she was very strong on her anti-war message, which again resonates with both parties. It does. It resonates with both parties. So later on, we'll get to a best of Tulsi Gabbard, and I'll show you some of her most awesome moments. So it's her and Andrew Yang that I have tied for number one. Number two is pretty shocking. And many of you might disagree with this, but that's fine. But I think most of the night he did very well. I have Cory Booker. Cory Booker did to Biden what Kamala did to Biden the last time around. Cory Booker had some nice zingers. And there were other moments where he was so overly political and he sounded like a goofball, but I think those were limited, and there were more moments where Cory Booker could have won over new people. He came across as more likable than he usually is, and he was more aggressive than he usually is. So I actually think he did pretty well. Now, again, he's so far back that it might not matter, but he was gunning for Biden, and it kind of worked when he did it. So I have him at number two. Now, some people, I'm curious what all you guys think. So you can post in the comment section what your hierarchy is, what your order is, how you think everybody did. Because in my opinion, after you get past the Tulsi and Yang being tied for first, I think it's kind of up in the air. I think you could make an argument for a lot of the people on stage. I do. And then we have number three, is Julian Castro. Now, he had a few moments that I was cringing and I thought were terrible, but I think the average Democratic voter who's somewhat apolitical would have liked Julian Castro. He did have his moments, and I'll say it again, Julian Castro, when he's miserable, is a better candidate. When he's like happy, he just comes across as unbearable. But when he's miserable and he's serious, I think he lands a lot better. Now again, I cringed. He was so, like, his closing statement, he was doing the fake sincere voice, like, America, our destiny. And he said, adios, to Trump at the end of it, and it was too much. But through most of the debate, I think he did a pretty solid job. Number four, I have Jay Inslee. He just did a solid job. Everybody appears to like him. They think he's like a dad figure, and they think, he actually cares about climate change, and he's a serious person, and he means well. So everybody kind of liked how Jay Inslee did, at least on Twitter. So I would say Jay Inslee is there. And then we're going to go to, after Inslee, he's number four. We're going to go a tie between Kirsten Gillibrand and Bill DeBlasio at number five. Gillibrand had a moment that got a lot of press coverage afterwards where she said, when I'm president, first thing I'm going to do is Clorox the White House. I don't know if it was a line that she just kind of pulled out of thin air. I tend to doubt it. She probably thought about it beforehand, but she delivered it as if she had pulled it out of the air, and the audience loved it, and mainstream media was blowing her after it. So I think she had her moments. Every now and then she tries to sound super progressive, and but I just think her and Bill DeBlasio, they're going to turn off equal numbers of people that they turn on to them. So that's why they're a little further down on the list, even though one could argue that they did, or respectively, they did a solid job. And then after that, we go Kamala, Biden, and then Bennet dead last. And actually, I'm open to a conversation as to whether or not Biden did better than Kamala, because I watched the debate twice. And I had to prep for you guys, for the show and get the clips and all that stuff. So my first reaction, the first time I watched it, I thought Kamala did better than Biden. Then the second time I watched it, I said, actually, no, Biden did better than Kamala. And what's interesting is mainstream media is saying Kamala had a very bad night, which is fascinating to me because I was convinced that when the debate was over, that they would go right back to their, oh my God, Kamala's the best, Kamala's the best, Kamala's the best stuff. And they didn't do it. So I thought that was strange. Now, they also aren't saying Biden had a good night, which again is kind of surprising. I thought if you're not going to say Kamala had a good night, you're going to say Biden did have a good night. No, it appears to be relatively consistent, at least from everything I've seen. Maybe it's changed now, but Kamala and Biden, mainstream media was kind of saying they both didn't have a good night. So I don't know if my first reaction is more accurate, that I thought Kamala did better than Biden, or my second reaction is more accurate, that Biden did better than Kamala. All I know is people were landing body blows on both of them. And the first time I watched, I didn't notice as many of the body blows on Kamala, and I thought Biden was getting obliterated. Then the second time I watched, I realized it was almost, at moments, it was almost too much of a pile-on against Biden, and to the point where he kind of came across as a somewhat sympathetic figure at times, and he was able to land some counterpunches on people that I didn't notice the first time I watched the debate. So I'm open to Kamala having edged out Biden or Biden having edged out Kamala. And actually, you know what? Scratch that. I'm going to put them at a tie. For whatever number we're on, 7, 8, whatever it is. But dead last in the debate, and this one I'm not even having a conversation about because it appears to me relatively obvious, Michael Bennet. Dude, wrap it up. Go home. Surfer boy Michael Bennet is just... Nobody knows why he's on stage. Nobody even knows who he is. His family is like, who? Michael who? I don't know Michael. What do you mean Michael? Michael Jackson? Michael Jordan? This dude, first of all, every time he opened his mouth, I was with 100% certainty predicting he would say the words rad and tubular. Because, bro, that's like how he speaks. Who, me, bro? I'm not for Medicare for all. That's a terrible plan, bro. It'll cost $30 trillion, bro. It's totally not rad. Totally not tubular, bro. That's Michael Bennet. Every argument he made was utter trash. He was kind of, acting like John Delaney acted in the first debate, where he's wrong and arrogantly wrong. And there's just nothing there. It's not even like he has a likable personality to make up for the fact that he's wrong on all the policy. He's wrong on all the policy, and his personality is insufferable. And even though he never said the words in his life, I'm convinced every time he talks, he's going to say, rad, bro. Totally tubular, bro. Rad. And he does this with his hands, even though he doesn't do this with his hands, but I can't imagine him not doing this in the same way I can't imagine him not saying rad and tubular, bro. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch the debate, bro. And you're not going to be able to get this out of your head. I'm telling you. Every time you watch Michael Bennet, you will be convinced he will say the words rad and tubular. So go back and watch. Go back and watch it now. And you'll be like, God damn, Kyle is right. Now I could never hear Michael Bennet talk without hearing the words rad and tubular. So it's just terrible. So anyway, that's my breakdown. But really, I think, honestly, the winner of night 2 was also Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I do believe that, because they are just head and shoulders above everybody else. Not even close, a different league than everybody else. And on night 2, even though Tulsi and Yang did very well, in my opinion, they didn't stand so far above and beyond Bernie and Elizabeth Warren that they were the beneficiaries of that. By simple virtue of the fact that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did not have good nights, and nobody else was such a standout, I think Bernie and Elizabeth Warren won the second night as well. And again, we'll see. We'll see if all this reflects in the polls, but that's my breakdown.